And welcome into our weekly Monday edition of Heads or Tails, where we take a look at the CCI and PPI in terms of what's going on. We've already talked about this to a great degree on the show here today in terms of some of the pressures that are going on. Michael Rudolph joins us now. And Michael, what are we going to be talking about here today?
Well, I thought we'd take a look at the flatbed markets. It's been a while, so we took a look at housing and construction. But boy, I got to tell you, they always said I had a face for radio, but now never. So I'm sorry to all the viewers watching.
All right, so let's jump into construction here and where we're going as far as the pressures are concerned.
Sure. So we did see some weakness in, and this is again kind of just mirroring that whole paradoxical nature of the signals we get from the economy, because we look at housing starts, right? That fell sharply. That puked. I mean, that was down, I think, 11, 12% month over month versus maybe a percentage expected, right? And this is, broadly to do with multifamily starts. So you're thinking about your big condo complexes, your big apartments, right? But, there's weakness in kind of your suburban single family houses as well. But then again, you see that green line there that ticked up in the month of August, right? Those are your building permits, right? That's the kind of forward-looking in demand, right? It shot up, I want to say, 6-7% on a monthly basis, right? And then again, that was way over expectations. So we look at like the forward-looking demand, right? It seems like it should be negative because everything that's broadcasting current signals is quite negative, right? But then again, like there is some kind of puzzling hope for the future. I mean, who knows how long it will last?
Definitely, yeah. So let's move on here. We've got employment in terms of, obviously, we've seen this massive growth in terms of the seasonally adjusted and truck, but tapering off quite a bit, maybe a little bit of a rebound here.
Yes, so you have to notice this is a dual axis, right, on the left and the right. We're not talking about the same scale. There are many more people in construction than in trucking, right? I think to the tune of something like 8 million in construction. But the rate of hires, right, that we saw, after the pandemic, like during the pandemic recovery, in truck transportation was very fast, very rapid, and very unsustainable, right? Construction, perhaps some of the reason that home builders have, somewhat of a better sentiment than do carriers and other people in the logistics industry, is because the rate of hiring was very even. That's almost a straight line, that green line there. So we do kind of see the rise and fall when it comes to truck transportation. The construction sector is a little bit more robust. And I mean, when we talk about housing demand, as we've talked for so many months now, right? Housing demand just by single family, homeowners and would-be home buyers, right? That's not going anywhere. So, I mean, there are tough conditions, right? Mortgages, your average 30-year fixed rate mortgage is at like 7.5%, right? That's tough. Home prices aren't really coming down. Home sales are slowing. And there is a little bit of appetite being lost in the housing market. That said, construction firms are better positioned than most to kind of weather the nearby storm.
And that gets us, of course, to flatbed outbound tender rejection index, or as Anthony Smith likes to call it, faux try.
Faux try, right? This has been a dismal performance by faux try so far. I mean, you look at the second quarter of 2023, that was already at an average of like 12%, 12.16% in Q2, well below the highs we saw in 2022, which almost peaked around like 45%, right? Flatbeds were the place to be for so long. They were so tight, and then they've just been loosening rapidly. And it's quite grim. I mean, we fell from 12% in Q2 to around 8% in Q3, and now we're down below 7%. I mean, this is one of those modes where you thought that, yeah, it's a volatile mode. I think on a weekly basis more so than dry vans and reefers, but there would at least be some floor there, and that floor is not what we're seeing. And you want to take this potential for near-term optimism from construction firms and translate that to flatbed, demand. But I'm not certain that that's going to be the winning formula here, especially since industrial production of oil and gas in America is already kind of on the way down. So you're going to see a lot of weakness from, I think, various sectors that feed into flatbed demand over the coming months.
One of the things that we've talked about a lot over the course of the show today, of course, is the amount of credit card debt that is, we've just eclipsed $1 trillion in American credit card debt at this particular point. Obviously, we've already talked about student loans being coming back into form as well. You're looking at housing, and obviously this is not good in terms of the housing starts as well as flatbed. I would hesitate to say exactly where you're going on heads or tails here, but how tough is this market going to be?
I mean, that's a brilliant segue, actually, because one of the things I was hoping to get to this week was, furniture, right? Because this doesn't just affect, flatbed demand; it affects dry van demand as well, right? Furniture spending, according to the latest Bank of America card spending report, is down almost 15% on a yearly basis. On a 4-year basis, right, compared to 2019, it is up only 2%, right? Broadly, inflation is up 20% over that period. So spending on furniture is really weak, which is, truly unfortunate because a sectional, takes up a lot of space in a truck, right? So this is the stuff that we want to be moving, those big, bulky, durable goods that fed, I think, the industry's growth in 2020 and 2021. That has slowed dramatically. And with this demand, this lessened demand for housing, right, comes a lessened demand for home furnishings.
So when you look at in the final analysis here, where are things going? Obviously, these numbers paint a bleak picture, but where do you see things?
I mean, I think the majority of what we reviewed today looks like headwinds, but that brief kind of uptick in building permits does signal a potential for tailwinds. Who knows? Home builder sentiment seems to be low, so I think we're going to go with headwinds this week.
Anything that you're looking for in the near future that might indicate perhaps a change in how things are going to work out? Or are we looking continuously at sort of, as we see here, sort of a negative outlook?
I mean, I think with all modes, there will be some kind of seasonal tightness in capacity just around the holidays, but really that won't shine for flatbeds until the spring or the summer of next year at the earliest, right? Because it's winter and construction seasons. You got to take your pick, and it's going to be winter pretty soon.
Going to be tough there as well. Michael Rudolph, thanks so much for joining us on this edition of Heads or Tails.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a short break, come back with lots more content here on FreightWaves Now after this.